Welcome to How to Use a GIS Map, or How GIS is Like a Pizza, brought to you by the University of South Carolina as part of the Grant Readiness and Capacity Empowerment, or GRACE training series. In this lesson, we will explore how navigating a GIS map is similar to making a pizza. When you make a pizza, you first need to choose your crust or base pizza. You can choose a hand-tossed crust, a cauliflower crust, or perhaps even a crust made from pita bread. You have options for what you choose as your base. We have chosen a hand-tossed crust with tomato sauce and cheese as our base layer. Similarly, when you first use a GIS tool, you'll first choose your base layer, which may also be known as a base map. Base maps offer alternatives for the fundamental layer upon which you will add additional layers of data. Typically, you'll want to choose a base layer or base map that allows you to see other data layers clearly. In this example from the South Carolina Office of Resilience's Atlas tool, we have selected the Community Map base map, but we could have chosen many other options. Feel free to play around with changing your base map or base layer at any point in using a GIS tool to figure out which one will help you best understand any additional data layers you add. As a next step in making our pizza, we will add a second layer, mushrooms in this case. Similarly, after your GIS base map or base layer is chosen, you can add additional map layers, which can be called map layers or layers in a GIS tool. To our community map base map, we have added South Carolina Department of Transportation evacuation routes as a second map layer. What we can see here is that SCDOT evacuation routes exist generally between the coastal areas in South Carolina and the middle of the state. In making our pizza, we can continue to add layers of ingredients in order to have a perfect, delicious pizza to enjoy. Here we've added jalapeno peppers, and we can also add other toppings as layers like onions, tomatoes, or even pineapple. And similarly, in a GIS tool, we can continue to add map layers of data. In this example, with the Community Map base layer and the South Carolina Department of Transportation evacuation routes layer, we have added another layer to identify FEMA Community Disaster Resilient Zones, or CEDARs. From these layers, we can see in the GIS tool that many FEMA Community Disaster Resilient Zones, which are areas at risk of facing disasters, are located alongside South Carolina Department of Transportation evacuation routes. This is generally a good thing, as it shows that people who live in CEDARs have routes available to evacuate if a disaster were to strike. You can also remove toppings from your pizza. Here we have removed the mushrooms to go back to our original base, a cheese pizza. Just like we can remove toppings from our pizza, we can also remove layers from your GIS map. In the example above, we have removed the FEMA Community Disaster Resilient Zones map layer, leaving us with our initial community map base layer and the South Carolina Department of Transportation evacuation routes map layer. You'll have a chance to practice using GIS tools later in this module. Thank you for joining us for how to use a GIS map, or how GIS is like a pizza. We recommend viewing the introductions to the South Carolina Office of Resilience's Atlas and the Food as Medicine map next, followed by the GIS exercise.